So, a quick anecdote about my week here in Nashville, and I think this anecdote is really valuable for musicians who are playing the game or who are networking. And here's what I mean. I was doing a shift on Broadway, and for those of you who don't know or don't follow me, a shift is a 4 hour gig in Nashville where you basically play 4 hours straight. And a lot of times it's with people you've never met before. And you are basically, the band is like a human jukebox. And I was posting in my stories, I was like, well, the gig's about to start here in 2 minutes and we don't have a bass player. And we come to find out that the bass player had just gotten there, but he had to turn around. Why? Because he forgot his bass at home. And I'm saying that with a smile and I'm kind of laughing because, that's kind of the thing you don't forget. But I say that I've also forgotten my stick bag once before on a gig. And if you played in Nashville long enough, if you're playing these Broadway shifts, a lot of times people are playing 10, 20 shifts a week, and it's very much like a job. If you're doing it with that frequency, stuff is bound to happen. There's going to be some kind of slip up. And this guy just happened, it was the first gig of the day, and just happened to forget his bass. And I was posting about and laughing in my stories, and I had a couple musicians message me and be like, "That is amateur hour. That is that person would have been fired on the spot. There's no room for that kind of stuff." And I can understand where they're coming from, and I can see their points. However, I take a very, very different approach. One, because I'm in Nashville and I'm doing it, and I can understand and empathize. When you're doing that many gigs, we all deserve a little bit of grace, and stuff is going to happen. And those gigs are long. And I would rather have a bass player there for 3 hours as opposed to 0 hours. And it's also like you have to get along with people. And I know this person didn't forget their bass intentionally. I'd never met this person before, but we all deserve grace. Because even if I'm right and I bitch to someone about being late to a gig or forgetting their bass, it's not really going to do much in terms of me building relationships and rapport with people. It also wasn't my gig. I wasn't the band leader on the gig. So what good is me calling out this person, and even if I have a point, is that person ever going to want to call me for a gig? Is that person going to be comfortable on the gig we're playing if I bitch at him once he gets there? And then he's like all worried and nervous, and that affects his playing even more. Um, So, long story short, played the gig with this guy. This guy was a pretty good bass player. He was a really good bass player. Really cool dude. And he also, like, some of the things that I'm like, oh, here's a song no one ever gets these hits right. He got the hits right. And he was just a cool, chill dude. And afterwards, he was really cool and he was apologetic about it. He said, I'd never done that before. That was the first time. Um, and really, I wasn't blowing smoke up his ass. I was honest. I was like, don't worry about it, man. Like, shit happens. Like, we can laugh about it. And because you know what? He was a good bass player, and I would love to use him on a gig someday again. And I would love him to call me on a gig because he's the kind of guy I want to play with. And one of the things that I really I didn't pay so much attention to, or I wasn't intentional when I was younger, was about relationships and about diplomacy. And even if I have a point about like somebody like messing up on a gig, if I make them feel bad, it's not going to make them want to call me. That's not going to make them want to play with me. And also, like, that might not make the music go very well. And we all make mistakes, right? And my job is to make people comfortable on stage. My job is to get people comfortable, like, you know, when they're about to walk on stage as well. They're like, oh, Aaron's on the gig. He's cool about things. Everything is chill. So, I can see where the points where like some of my professional musician friends were like saying, "Oh, that is bullshit." And again, it's not something people, set out to do like, "Oh, I'm going to screw up royally today." We all make mistakes. We all deserve some grace. There comes a time and place where there's just certain things you can't mess up. Like if you're playing the Grammys, you can't be late for the Grammys. If you're uh, playing Wembley Stadium, you probably want to be there on time. You don't want to mess with those kind of things. But again, everything is all, it's all relative. So I always ask myself, is getting on my high horse and making a point really worth it if it burns a bridge or makes somebody else feel bad, look bad? For me, I'm realizing no, and it's like I want people to be comfortable. I want to make honest, good connections with people. And I want to find ways to connect with people and make them feel comfortable with me as a musician and as a person so that they'll call me for a gig. But then they also, it's just like, you just being a good person is good practice. And treating people with compassion. Again, the word I use a lot is grace. Offering people that it's something that I missed out on when I was younger, but now it's something that I'm prioritizing and realizing it's super valuable as I'm trying to break into a new scene. So that's a quick little 5 minute story about somebody forgetting their instrument and everything being okay. The gig was great, and I thought the bass player was great. I'd love to call him for another gig. So Jake, if you're listening or if you're watching, you're all right by me, man. I hope someday we're on a gig and we can laugh about this. Um, but yeah, man, it happens. It's totally cool. And I'll probably do it again on my next gig. So again, if you like what I have to say, you don't like what I have to say, shoot me a comment, subscribe, follow me. Subscribe button is right there in the corner.